guys, it's Caitlin, and today I am here to talk to you about episode 10 of Shadowhunters entitled This World Inverted. So I am super stoked to say that this was my favorite episode so far. I thought it was really good. It was very interesting. It brought up a lot of ideas. It's the first episode that I am able to say I would give it an A+. It's not perfect by any means. It's probably a 96 or 97 out of 100, but I was really happy with it. The issues I had were so minor that it didn't even bother me. Just so much stuff happened. It kind of cleared the way and cleared my mind as to some of the changes they have made that didn't make sense to me before. It threw in some interesting plot twists. It made for a really interesting rest of the season, and I am so excited to see where it goes after this. Now that's all I can really say in the spoiler-free review of the episode. Now I am going to go ahead and get into the general synopsis. This episode starts with Meliorn taking Jace and Clary to like the outskirts of the Seelie Kingdom, and he's telling her, I know where your portal shard came from, kind of. You have to go through this portal to this alternate reality. And he basically tells her, this reality there are no Shadowhunters. Everybody still exists, but Shadowhunters are irrelevant because the demons were drawn out of the world and locked out hundreds of years ago. So when you go through, you have to merge with the Clary of this alternate reality. Meanwhile, Izzy is back at the Institute and she is arrested for treason because of her part in rescuing Meliorn from the Shadowhunters in the previous episode, who are going to take him to the City of Bones to be tortured by the Silent Brothers. In order to save her, Alec decides that he is willing to sacrifice his bond with Jace. The story with Luke's run-in with Internal Affairs, where they think he's the demonic killer, is resolved with the help of Simon. Clary and Jace, with the help of Magnus in the alternate reality, find the portal that the shard belongs to, and they manage to get through the portal to Chernobyl, where they find Jace's father locked in a locker. And now I am so confused, in a good way. Now I'm going to be getting into my thoughts about the episode step by step as they occurred. I have been going a little bit longer than I've been wanting to on my previous videos, so I kind of just tried to take notes on the very interesting aspects, and hopefully it will go faster than previously. In the Seelie forest thing, when Meliorn is taking Clary and Jace through to that portal, Meliorn is acting like Magnus. His voice sounds a lot like Magnus. His pattern of speech sounds a lot like Magnus. He's got some of the same flourishes and spins in his movement and behavior that Magnus has. And he's dressed a lot like Magnus, combined with a gay Jack Sparrow. This is completely the opposite of what I imagined for the very somber, serious Meliorn, but since they are making these changes, it works. It just really threw me off, even in comparison to what we've known about Meliorn in the past. But what really confused me was the fact that Meliorn reveals to Clary and Jace that they have to keep their presence there a secret. They can't cause any trouble because the Seelie Queen will kill Meliorn for bringing them into her kingdom without her permission if she finds out about them. From what I know, Meliorn is like the Queen's right hand for reasons that you discover in City of Heavenly Fire, about lying, which Seelie can't do. Those Seelie scouts who found Valentine were brutally murdered by him, and the entire Seelie court was in mourning over it. So I'm not really certain why she would kill him instead of just punishing him some other way or forgiving him. I'm not sure if that was just a story he made up or if it was reality, but it kind of threw me off either way. Then we get to the part where Meliorn decides that he's going to open the portal, and for me, that was one of the things that I didn't like about the episode. It was really weird. Like, it was this weird slow motion hand movement and all this weird dancing, and there were like green sparkles coming out of the palms of his hands, and I was like, are you a fairy or are you a warlock? Like, you need to make up your mind, because it was just really Magnus Bane with green magic-y to me, as opposed to the actual Seelie powers, which I kind of imagined more as only they can really get into the Seelie court whenever they want, and they just tell plants what to do and plants listen to them. But it also brings to mind some questions, chief among them. Meliorn is a half Seelie, or is he also half warlock? But I think that's not possible, because I think that warlocks are infertile. Maybe he's like 3/4 demon and 1/4 angel. Maybe it was a Seelie who bred with a demon. And of course, then as he opens the portal and Clary's about to go through, we find out what the Seelie catch is, because whenever the Seelie do you a favor, there's always a catch. And it's this. It's an alternate reality where Shadowhunters don't even exist anymore, because they don't need to exist, because all the demons were expelled from this reality hundreds of years ago, so no one even remembers Shadowhunters, and demons can't get in because all the portals have been sealed. Because of this, Clary will have to assume the body of the Clary in this reality. She will have to assimilate into this world, and she will have to keep from fully assimilating with the alternate reality Clary, or else she could lose her memory and be trapped there forever. And for this draws to mind certain aspects of the 6th book in the Mortal Instrument series with the alternate realities, the alternate timelines, the advent and demise of Shadowhunters, although obviously it's a very different Shadowhunter resolution than in the world they end up in City of Heavenly Fire, but it definitely brings to mind some parallels, and it also kind of brings to mind for me that maybe this is the explanation why there are some things that are so similar to the Mortal Instruments books that we've read and the show, while some things are so vastly different. And I'll get back into that in a little bit. Simon shows up at werewolf headquarters to talk to Luke, and he introduces himself as the new vampire ambassador to the werewolves, and then he reveals to Luke, look, I came here for help training because I can't really do it very well, I can't control myself, and Raphael is not a patient teacher, and I just want you to teach me if you can. So now I'm kind of confused as to whether or not Simon is actually the ambassador, or if that was just an excuse and he just came here for help from Luke. Jump back to the alternate reality where Clary has just come through, and Valentine walks in, and he's her father, and he's just this really nice guy, and her family is so whole. And as we start to get to know all of the characters in this world, like all of them are still there, Clary actually gets to know her father Valentine as a father and as a good person. She gets her mother, her parents are still married. She doesn't know Luke, but we get kind of his backstory. She knows Simon, she knows Jace, she knows Isabel. It's really great. And what's interesting is it's like this reality is more parallel to the books, even though the Shadowhunters don't exist in this reality, than the actual reality in the show is. Magnus is no longer a warlock in this world, apparently, because magic doesn't exist and Shadowhunters don't exist, but Magnus is a tarot card reader who helps people find their true destinies, and that's very, very interesting, because to me, it makes me curious if he's actually using his magical abilities for, psychic readings and tarot cards, or if he's somehow seeing into the other realities, like the reality of the books that we read to find out what these people do. But in this reality, Luke reveals, I found out that I wasn't set to be a cop, so I opened a bookstore. In this reality, Jocelyn is a painter like she was in the books. Isabel is like this nerdy girl with these big glasses and these braids. Jace works in like a taco cart, it looked like. Simon works for Clary's father, as does Isabel, because he owns like this multi-million-dollar internet company, which is really interesting. Simon and Isabel are together and are thinking about getting engaged. Jace and Clary are kind of seeing each other. And just overall, it's amazing how many parallels they really had in there. But I also thought it was really weird because the first thing Clary does when she gets into this reality where she knows there are no Shadowhunters, no demons, nothing, is freak out on Valentine, pull a butter knife to him and be like, who are you? Get out of here. Where's my mom? And he just laughs at her and he's like, okay, honey, is this one of your cosplay things? Let me get your mother. She'll love this. And I was kind of thrown off by this because I was like, wouldn't you have expected to see these people in different places? Like, you knew you had to come to this world and assimilate the Clary of this world, implying that, all of these people also are of this world and are also going to be in this world in completely different roles. Then we jump back to the Institute where Isabel is arrested for treason because of her part in rescuing Meliorn. And that's when Isabel does a really great job of calling Lydia out, saying you're just like Valentine, except worse, because you hate downworlders, but at least Valentine had the nerve to say it to their face. I really love that they aren't taking away from Isabel's sassiness and her strength. And then we jump to Simon, where he's training with Luke again. As a vampire, at least, Simon seems very much like a greaser, like the Outsiders, like Grease, like he's got the leather jacket and the slicked back hair, and he's just kind of got that attitude and that smirk that would go along with a greaser more than this nerdy guy turned vampire. And then he's talking to Luke, and Luke's trying to help him kind of train, and that's when the Internal Affairs guy shows up, and he pulls a gun on Luke, and Simon gets ridiculously angry about it. And it kind of confused me a little bit there too, because I'm like, why are you getting so angry? Like, I get that Simon was supposed to be having issues controlling his emotions at this point, and that his emotions were all over the place, but it seemed really strange. And Simon's like getting angrier and angrier, and then he attacks the Internal Affairs guy, knocks the guy unconscious, luckily doesn't kill him, and Luke is like, well, that wasn't ideal. No. No, it wasn't. Then we jump back to the alternate reality where Clary has decided that she needs to find Magnus, and she finds him, and he has both cats. I was so worried that we weren't going to get any Church, we weren't going to get any Chairman Meow, but we did, and that made me happy. And it was kind of funny because Chairman Meow is this cute little tabby kitty, and he just loves on it, and then he's like, this is Chairman Meow. Then he points over at Church, who is this angry looking fat gray Persian cat, and he's like, that's Church. Curious how Magnus got Church. I'm not sure if Magnus in this world has just gotten an angry long-haired kitty every time one of them dies and named it Church, or if somehow it's the same Church that he got from the 1800s London Institute with Jem and Will, or what? Did he know Jem and Will? Did Jem and Will exist in this reality? Like, they must have, because Alec and Isabel exist. So Jem and Will must have existed, because if Will didn't exist, then Cecily wouldn't have ever met the Lightwood boy that she married, and so on. Are they like the last of the Shadowhunters? But Magnus doesn't have magic. He says he hasn't used it in a couple of 100 years. He doesn't even believe that Clary's a Shadowhunter because he's like, they don't exist. And so she has to draw a rune for him to believe her. The only thing that bothered me about this alternate reality episode is that, yeah, it drew some interesting parallels. Like, okay, I'm understanding that maybe this reality that we're watching on the show is a different reality from the ones in the books, in which case that would resolve a lot of the issues I've been having with the inconsistencies between the two worlds and between the books and the show. But at the same time, it frustrates me because it's like we're introduced to this new world with all these interesting ideas and concepts and bringing up all these questions that we're not going to get the answer to because we're just in this world for this episode. And then we jump back to Luke and Simon, who are still having this altercation with the internal affairs guy. And Simon obviously had just knocked him out, and now this guy is like tied to a chair, and Simon is pretending to be the demonic killer that they've been tracking. And he's like, oh, I've got like this formaldehyde pump thing, and it's gonna pump all the blood out of your body, and then you're gonna die. But it'll only hurt for a minute. And then Luke comes in with a gun and shoots Simon like 5 million times in the chest and saves the internal affairs guy. And the internal affairs guy is like, okay, you're cleared of all charges. And what really confused me was the IA guy saw Simon with Luke before he was attacked. He knew they were together. And then we jump back to the alternate reality. She's in the Institute, which in this world is a very high-tech place that her father, Valentine, uses to kind of do a lot of his internet mogul stuff. She's like dancing with Jason, things start to go all blurry. And that's when I kind of figure, when it's going blurry, that must mean that she's like losing herself and becoming too entrenched in the clarity of this world. And I really actually kind of like that. At first I was confused, like, is my internet not buffering right? And then we jump back to the Institute where Alec has enlisted Hodge and Lydia to help him use his parabatide bond to track Jace. And Hodge is like, okay, I'll help you on one condition. You have to stop before it's too late. And Alec is like, no, Jace is dead to me. And so he starts to track him. And when he's tracking him, it's just when Meliorn and Jace have been attacked by this demon who wants to get through the portal. One demon kicks their ass. Alec, using the bond to track him, totally screwed him because it caused this pain and it made them both weak. I feel like Meliorn should have been able to handle that, like on his own. Steely Knights are supposedly so great, but you can't handle one demon on your own? Like, really? Then we go back to the alternate reality. Magnus has just gotten to the party at the Institute. He's not on the list, and then Alec lets him in. And Alec's like, I'll take responsibility for this one. And we got a Alec moment, but it was vice versa from what we're used to, and it made me so happy because he's all hitting on Magnus, and Magnus is like, I've gotta go. And Alec watches him go, and he's like, playing hard to get, huh? I love a challenge. And it was the exact same line that the Magnus and the reality that we watch on the show in general had said about Alec. Malik fills. Then we jump to back outside the portal where Jace is lying unconscious on the ground, and Meliam goes up to him and he looks at him like, and he just like smacks him on the face like, and then he just does it once. Jace wakes up and he's like, oh, what happened? And Meliorn touches the ground, and apparently touching the ground tells him that there are more demons coming. So Jace goes through the portal, merges with the Jace of that reality, just in time for them to fight the demon. But what I didn't like about the demon fight was that it was very incohesive. Like, it didn't flow. It was very confusing to watch because in one scene, it shows Clary holding this demon off barely with like a broomstick. Like, she's pressed back like this. And then the next scene, the demon's facing the opposite direction, fighting Jace. and it didn't show any of the movement from point A to point B unless I blinked and missed it. So I thought that there were 2 demons, but apparently there was only 1, and they managed to kill it, and then they have to go through the portal, and Magnus shows where the piece of the portal shard fits into the portal to open it so they can get to Chernobyl where Valentine is, and then they go through. They're back in their regular clothes. What happened to the Jason Clary of that reality? When they went through the portal, they exited this reality entirely, and they were only there, so does that mean that the Jason Clary of that reality are like gone forever? Like, there's kind of these paradoxes that I wish would have been discussed or resolved better. I'm leaning towards no, because they're in their normal clothes now, but at the same time, when they went through, they were in those people's clothes, and I never got to see what happened to the Jason Clary of the alternate reality after they went through. Maybe I'm being too critical and looking at it too specifically, but it's very confusing to me. Like, I want to know the rules of this multiple reality thing, but since we do have aspects of that in the 6th book in the series, and they are trying to follow the general plot rules of the 6 books, I think that we might get more exploration of that through the future season, so I'll be interested to see that. So they end up in Chernobyl, and there's like this greasy locker room, nasty place that Valentine has been, or at least it looks like he's been there. Maybe it's like a different part of the facility. There's like all these vials there, and Jay sniffs one, and he's like, oh no, he's building an army. Like, how do you get that out of sniffing a bottle? Is that the name of the cologne in that bottle? Like, he's building an army. The name of my new cologne. Army. Or is that like what Shadowhunters call fragrances? Like, they call fragrances armies and they don't realize it. Like, he's like, oh, he's making a fragrance. But in Shadowhunter language, it's, oh, he's making an army. Like, I don't understand how sniffing a bottle can tell you that, but okay. And then there's like a locker across the room, and they're like, where is everybody? And someone's like shuffling around in there, and they open it, and it's a scrawny guy lying on the floor of the bottom of this locker, like, it's you. Claire's like, what's going on? And Jason's like, it's my father. And at that point, I was like, what the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck is going on here? Like, is this Michael Wayland? Is this whoever Herondale? Is this Valentine in disguise? Did Valentine trade his freaking face every time he went to see Jace as a child? Like, I don't understand. Like, what is happening? Where is this going? I don't know. That's really intriguing me. I want to know what's going on. Help me. That was my review for episode 10 of Shadowhunters Season 1. Shadowhunters has been renewed for Season 2 starting next fall, I think, so I'm really looking forward to that. That's all I've got to say about this episode of Shadowhunters. Thanks so much for watching. Hit like if you liked this video, subscribe if you really liked it, comment down below, let me know anything you thought about the episode, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!